Welcome to another Java Break. This is Dr. King, President of Basis International, and today we have a very exciting topic called Moving Your Business to the Cloud, and wouldn't you know it, Basis paved the way. So of course, one of the first questions people always ask is, what is cloud computing? I read about it, I hear about it. What in the world is cloud computing really, and what does it mean to me? Well, the real cloud is millions of servers out there in warehouses around the world, and they're just waiting to do your bidding. I guess the new news today, if you haven't been keeping up with your email from Nicco and Company, is that BBX, Pro5, BBJ, and Buoy are all in the cloud, just like all the other cool guys like Google, Sun, Microsoft, Amazon, and so on. So, overview of what we're going to talk about today is cloud computing, how it is that we went through the process of deciding what needed to be done to move into the cloud, the rationale, considerations, investigations, preparations, conversions, installation, storage, and maintenance. We'll also talk about the Basis technology that is running in the cloud, because of course we try to run as much of the Basis technology to run Basis as we can whenever we are doing our day-to-day business. So, cloud computing, Basis moved all their corporate servers to the cloud. Can you believe it? You probably didn't even notice when we went from being on Earth to the cloud. That's when everything works smoothly. So why did we do it? Well, we do business in more than 70 countries around the world, and we have a lot of customers who are concerned about longevity and long-term reliability, and they wanted to know what was our business continuation plan, our disaster recovery plan. All of these things give customers a peace of mind if they know that no matter what happens, you're going to be able to survive and be around to deliver product and to deliver licenses. Of course, for our own internal purposes, we certainly wanted to reduce dependence on our local IT support and reduce dependence on hardware and software scalability we have in the building and all the guesstimations we have to do about every time we get ready to upgrade to a new piece of hardware. We certainly wanted to reduce the overall cost of hardware and software, and we wanted to offload the spam war, which is a 7x24 war that sometimes we win and sometimes we lose, but we realized that somebody else has got a lot more expertise than we do at fighting that war, and we wanted to get them in the battle and us out of the battle. We also wanted to do load balancing and off-site backups. We wanted to get our build system out of the building and up into the cloud, as well as all of our test system. So, from a business continuation perspective, what do we mean? Well, in the case of the physical plant disaster, building destroyed or damaged beyond use, employees get to work from home or from a Wi-Fi hotspot. Business really does continue as usual if you do not have your business depending on the earth, but actually depending on the cloud. What are we going to do in the case of a cloud disaster? Well, we're using Amazon EC2 and Amazon RDS and Amazon S3. You can see that they're very fond of acronyms, but we've spelled it out so it's easy to understand that we're using Amazon's Elastic Computing Cloud, their relational database service, and their simple storage service, and all of them have near 100% uptime. From a business continuation perspective, we've certainly put all of our public servers as well as our private servers up in the cloud so that if the physical plant disappears off the face of the earth, everybody out there trying to get to Basis or powered by BBJ or Bugzilla or Add-on continue to be able to access those because they really are living in the cloud. Just to give you a little sense of how all that works, we've certainly got some dependence developed on MySQL. Fortunately, Amazon serves that up in the cloud, and we've got the ability to have our supplemental production databases up there and our add-on software website all powered by the MySQL servers. And you can see there's a great big long URL to get to those websites, but of course we're able to virtualize the domains and give you the ones that are easy to remember: www.poweredbybbj.com, basis.com, add-on to software.com, and they all really point to this virtual machine or these virtual machines up in the cloud, so you never have to worry about remembering the great long name. You can just continue to go to the websites that you've grown to love over the years. Business continuation, we've certainly got a dependency on the data that we use day to day. We're storing that up in Amazon's S3 storage. We have all of our accounting and our production running in that cloud. We store it on the S3 cloud. Anytime we get ready to do a backup, it is done up there in the cloud. We actually do that in an automated way every night at midnight, so that the furthest we can ever be out of sync is 24 hours. We've also pushed all of our product source archives up into the cloud. So whether you're talking about BBX, Pro5, bPro5, BBJ, any of the license generation, all that is sitting in the cloud as well. The thing that most of you guys care about when it comes to 7x24 availability from Basis is our license generation and software delivery. Of course, since they're sitting up in the cloud and have an unlimited number of servers powering them, then you never have to worry about our servers being down anytime you happen to need a license or you need to download product. The requests are all handled by servers that are running up in the Amazon cloud. Of course, everything isn't just about the product and licenses. You still need to talk to people, whether or not you need to talk to somebody to buy something or you need to talk to somebody for support. We've handled that business continuation concept by using Google Voice numbers as our corporate numbers. What this means is that even if the physical plant goes down or the physical internet goes down, you'll still be able to reach any Basis personnel that you're trying to reach, whether it's sales or support. That gives the employees the ability to continue to do business as usual, even if some calamity might befall the organization. From a disaster recovery perspective, we really hope that we don't have to worry about recovering from the disaster. Since it all lives in the cloud, it seems to be very difficult to imagine a scenario where the cloud would actually go through a disaster. From a physical plant disaster, really it's just the furniture and the walls that go down, but we'll all have our computers that we can access the internet, we can access corporate email, corporate calendars. Licensing can be done through BCom, or you can call one of the Basis salespeople. All the websites will continue to run in the cloud. You'll be able to do printing to the local printer or any printer that you have access to. Certainly don't have a dependency on printers in the organization. And of course, these Google Voice and Google Apps give you the ability to configure your phone number to ring to any of a number of phones. So it could be your cell phone or your office phone or your home phone or your hotel phone. It makes no difference. It's up to each individual to configure that number to ring wherever is convenient for that particular day. Continuing on with the idea of disaster recovery, we've got certainly the possibility that a disaster could come that would be very difficult to keep from struggling with. We think that moving to the cloud kept us from having to worry about a true disaster recovery that a customer would have to know about or care about. We think that it's going to be transparent to the customers most of the time. No notification would be necessary. We'd just continue to do business as normal. But in the worst case scenario, we certainly could reconfigure the cloud if we happen to lose in some great calamity an entire cloud area. We could reconfigure that in another cloud and continue on. If there was going to be any extended period of outage, we would notify all of our partners via email. So, what do we have to consider when we get ready to move to the cloud? We had to think about security, reliability, dependability, service level agreement, bandwidth, latency, collaboration, and licensing. So from a security perspective, we had to worry about all those evil people out there on the worldwide internet who could potentially gain access to our software. So we immediately increased the length of our passwords going to our BBJ applications. We used the BBJ API to authenticate all of those users, and we made sure to only open the ports in the firewall that were absolutely necessary. users get to run as nobody and have restricted permissions when they do not have an OS level account. So all those things made it very secure so that we didn't have to worry about the bad guys getting into our business, even though it was running in the cloud. So investigations, we did quite a lot of investigations. As we began to move forward, we had to determine what was the direction, who was the right company, how would we be able to go from being inside our four walls to outside in the cloud. So as we began to investigate Amazon, they've been running a cloud platform for about 4 years now, and there was a little bit of a learning curve to understand some of their new vernacular. Anytime they talk about an AMI, that is an Amazon machine image. That's really like a ghosted copy of a machine. They have the ability to for you to choose whether or not you want to have one running on the West Coast, the East Coast, Europe, or Asia. And you listed a few of the options that you have right now. You can have a small, medium, or large. They've also got a micro. They got an extra large, super extra large, a 4 times extra large. Really, any size machine you could imagine, they've got available for you. We decided, of course, to go with 64-bit systems because that seems to be the way of the future. 32-bit systems are sort of old and antiquated, but we still can certainly use them for testing. But for our production moving forward, we thought it was best to select the 64-bit systems. We also decided the best place to store the data was in S3. Mentioned before that when you store stuff in Google, you get 3 copies of it scattered in various locations around the world. And when it comes to S3 storage, you get it stored in 5 places around in the world. Those of you who have attended our TechCons in the past have seen demonstrations of all the load balancing that we have done here at Basis in order to make sure that we had servers up and running at all times. We've moved that into the cloud as well so that we don't have to worry about the configuration of load balancing here on Earth. It all is done with a click of a checkbox on the web interface up in the cloud. So it's very nice. Anytime you get ready to start another machine in the cloud, you just click on your custom configured instance and start it, and off you go. You have a whole nother instance of a perfectly configured machine. Investigation slide number 3. We're continuing on with the discussion of Amazon and EC2. There are a variety of types of storage you can have with a machine. You can have dynamic storage, the kind that disappears every time you restart your machine. You can have elastic block storage, which is persistent storage. That's equivalent to mounting a drive. And we use all the various types of storage at Basis. We're using Java, BBJ, add-on software. Those kinds of software packages are certainly stored on the persistent drive because every time we start the machine or restart a machine, we want to make sure that those software packages persist. If we're going to be doing any sort of testing, then we can write all of the information onto a dynamic drive as soon as we finish our test and start the machine over again. Of course, we start out with a pristine environment, brand new database, and that's exactly what you want for a test environment. But for running in production, you want to make sure that all of your databases and your software are sitting on a persistent drive. So that's the way we have it configured. Since we do both testing and production up in the cloud, it's good to have the 2 different kinds of environments. And of course, we have a dependency on those persistent drives, so that means that we want to make sure that if something happens to that persistent drive, we've got the ability to recover it. And so every night we certainly back up the databases that are sitting on those persistent drives, S3, for easy recovery, so we're never any further away than a 24-hour-old backup of the database. Investigations number 4, we've got a dependency on MySQL to power some of our software. Add-on software website is powered by Drupal, and as all of you who are familiar with Drupal know, it stores its data in a MySQL database. And so we use Amazon to power our databases. We get multiple databases for just one price. We get automated backups. The number of the backups stored is configurable, so you can decide if you want one every day for 7 days or however long that you want to have those backups available. They will do it for you. It's all part of the price. One of the things that most of you have benefited from right away when we moved to the cloud was this Amazon CloudFront functionality. The way it works is it gives us worldwide proximity download of the product. So no matter where you are in the world, Amazon figures out how to get a copy of the data, in this case, our product downloads, to the nearest data center, or the data center nearest you, and that way it's much easier and faster for you to download the product because of our use of CloudFront. Doesn't matter where you are in the world, CloudFront or Amazon's CloudFront allows you to do a download, even though virtually it looks like you're always going to www.basis.com downloads. You really are getting the data downloaded to you from a data center that is very, very near you, and thus it is much faster to do a download from Basis than it ever has been before. We're using Amazon S3 for a variety of storage locations. As I mentioned before, it handles the storage of our product and our backups, and also it is where we keep backups of the ghosted instances that we're running in the various data centers around the world. So we sleep very well at night knowing that there are 5 disparate copies of our data stored. Every time we put anything in Amazon S3, we automatically get 5 disparate copies in 5 different data centers. So that's very, very handy and very secure for us. You can see in this interface that we have a variety of different CloudFront implementations. We have ones for customer uploads, ones for public downloads, and then those also for Basis download. So as we prepared to move into the cloud, we had to think about a variety of things. We removed our host name dependencies, of course, from our configuration, because we knew when we moved to the cloud that you never could tell every day was going to be a new day, a new host name for your machine. So we wanted to make sure that we were working with localhost as much as possible. We converted our stuff to use relative pathing instead of full paths, and in so doing, it made our installations much more portable, which was necessary in order to work into the cloud. We also implemented SSH tunneling for our printing. That enabled public SSH access on the server side. Of course, it's key protected. And we verified our SSH server could print to all the servers. And then we just changed the LPR in the config file to use SSH, and we were done. And just that fast, we had Basis products working from cloud to the local printers by changing nothing more than a config file. Of course, as we continue to move into the cloud, we also had to use SSH port forwarding in order to facilitate access for ODBC and JDBC. We restricted access to the sensitive data since it was now going to be in the cloud. We had to increase the strength of our passwords, tested latency and bandwidth, because we know that dependency was very important on some of the applications. Latency, for those of you who are not familiar, has to do with ping time, which is how fast does a round-trip packet go, and bandwidth is the volume. And it turns out that most of our applications were much more sensitive to ping times than they were to bandwidth. We got a nice benefit by going to the cloud in that our latency actually got faster by moving into the cloud than we had when we were serving it up on our own servers here for those of our virtual employees. So sort of an unexpected benefit when we moved our servers into the cloud. All our virtual employees had much faster access to the cloud machines than they ever had to the servers when they were sitting inside the 4 walls of Basis. So what conversions did we have to do? We converted addonsoftware.com from Flash to Drupal. Using an open source product is always our preference. And we converted our QA memo system to use Bugzilla, a very popular, well-known open source system. We also moved our SVN source code archives up into the cloud, and that made access to everybody working virtually much faster than when it was within our 4 walls. We moved Bugzilla archives into the cloud as well, converted all our SVN clients to use SASL connections. Took the latest version of an SVN client to have that kind of connectivity, and since all of our access to our cloud software now requires a secure connection, it was very handy to see that the SVN clients now had that secure connection, or we would have had a big problem. We also converted add-on 6 that was written, of course, for Pro 5 to run in BBJ so that we could access it via the BBJ Thin Client. We converted our add-on 9 database to add-on 10 database and just happened to be doing an upgrade at the same time. And we converted our VPN dependencies to SSH tunnel dependencies so that now everybody can work from home without using VPNs, but by accessing the cloud directly using all of the secure tunneling that comes with the various clients these days. So what do we have to install? We installed Drupal to power www.addonsoftware.com. We installed Apache Web Server, installed Java, installed BBJ. When we installed BBJ, we ran only the secure servers, that is to say the SSL servers, and we opened up the BBJ ports in the firewall. We ran the Jetty web server. We fired up WebStart and Buoy, and we also had to secure our LaunchDock utility with a user and a password. Up to this point, our LaunchDock had always been launched from inside the four walls of Basis, and so we didn't really need the security just for the LaunchDock. We had it on all the applications. But once we moved into the cloud, we wanted to make sure everything was secure, so we added a username and password to the LaunchDock utility that you guys have all seen, I'm sure, over the years at our various tech cons, as well as in our magazine layouts. We really got to see the benefit of the work that we've done over the past 5 or 6 years implementing the SSL servers for all of the various pieces of BBJ. Certainly our customer base has demanded over the years, but this was the first time that Basis itself saw the benefits of SSL connectivity between the thin client and the servers and the database. Makes you feel a lot more comfortable with the security of your data when you know that all the communication from your home or from your business out to the cloud and back is protected with SSL security, and BBJ certainly facilitated that, as well as Buoy. Buoy was just released this year, but with the first release it was supported on the Secure 443, and that way everything that we did when we moved to the cloud was able to be implemented with SSL right away. And it was certainly handy to be able to take advantage of the functionality that you guys have requested we put into the product over the years. It was nice to see that it was just ready to go whenever we pushed it into the cloud. So some of the other things that we had to install, we certainly had to install add-on software, which is what we use as an accounting package here at Basis. We also installed the newest version of add-on, the Barista version, because we run a hybrid environment here. We installed Bugzilla SVN, Web SVN, and also Duplicity for doing our nightly backups to S3. Duplicity is an open source product that we're using for we first do a flash copy at midnight. We suspend the database for just a second. We do a flash copy, and then we use Duplicity to do a full backup every 7 days and incremental backups in between. And then, of course, all that is pushed up to S3 for safekeeping and 5 different copies every time we push it up there. If we push one, they dupe it 5 times. Very handy. What are the charges everybody wants to know? Well, certainly monthly charges, very small monthly charges for moving your data in and out of the cloud. There's no charge to move your data between machines that are in the cloud, which is very handy for us as we do our building in the cloud, and we move after it's built. We launch test machines to go out and run all the tests, whether it's a Buoy test or a SQL test or a GUI test or a database test. All those are fired up on separate individual machines. They do all of their testing. They push the results to yet another machine in the cloud for us to review. And then finally, the base product is pushed right on up to S3 for all of you guys to download, either from a nightly build or from a fully fledged release build. But all of that is done at no charge to us because we're doing our checkouts from a cloud machine, we're doing our builds from a cloud machine, we're serving it up from a cloud machine, and all those machines allow that data to be moved in and out and around them at no charge at all. And the only charges we incur is when we move data in or out of the cloud itself. There are also some monthly charges for storage of EC2, the persistent drive, as well as dynamic storage, and all those are available, and they change, I wouldn't say daily, but maybe monthly. The prices are changing, and of course they seem to be dropping all the time. And you can find those by looking up on Amazon under EC2 pricing. and you can see all the prices for yourself for today and check back often because they seem to change very often. So I guess the biggest news about us moving to the cloud is that the Basis product line moved very easily and seamlessly into the cloud with the ability to run SSL security. We didn't have to worry at all about the security of our data, and we were able to use the BBJ Thin client to run Barista GUI accounting from the cloud. As I mentioned earlier, we're running a hybrid environment, so not only can we run the GUI environment in Thin client, we are running the CUI or Chewy environment in the cloud as well. And so I guess that should just give you guys some encouragement that whether you're in the GUI world or in the Chewy world, there isn't any limitations on your ability to move your organization or your customers into the cloud as well, because we're currently doing it. The last thing is that when we released BBJ 10, we announced the availability of BUI running in the cloud. And that just means anything that you developed in the past for vPro 5 or BBJ that was GUI, it could now run as JavaScript in any JavaScript powered browser. But these are just 3 static pages to give you a sense of the 3 different product types that BBJ and Basis supports up in the cloud. And I guess you could say we put our money where our mouth is. Not only do we sell the software, we're actually using the software up in the cloud. And thanks to the new licensing model available in BBJ 10, you're able to have a virtual license that will work whether or not you are in a virtual cloud machine or even on a VMware system. You're able to use the new virtual licensing that was released with BBJ 10, whether you're going to the cloud or running in a VMware instance. Just wanted to do a quick review of the things we've talked about in today's Java break. The whole day was about cloud computing. We went through the rationale of why it is that we decided to do this, the various considerations we had along the way, the investigations we did, and ultimately the preparations and conversions that were necessary to actually move to the cloud. Then we did our installations, made sure that our storage was set up properly so that we had backups so that we could recover should we ever have any sort of disaster that we needed to recover from. And we talked about how little maintenance was involved as we once we had moved into the cloud. We also discussed the Basis technology that was running in the cloud. If it hadn't been for the last 25 years of development and culminating in BBJ and BUI, we would have had a much harder time moving to the cloud because so much of our business is in fact dependent on our own product. So it doesn't make any difference whether you're running BBX or Pro 5, vPro 5, BBJ, Thin Client, WebStart, BUI, or using RDP protocol. It is possible to run all of the Basis product line in the cloud, and that's really made possible by both the technology of Thin Client and WebStart, as well as the new licensing model that allows you to have a virtual license or a cloud license. If you don't know about that or don't have one, contact your salesperson and tell them that you're interested in hearing more about the new cloud license or virtual license, and I'm sure they'll be glad to tell you more about it, and you'll be able to move your Basis powered products into the cloud at your leisure as well. The last piece we covered was the fact that not only did we move our production servers into the cloud, but we also moved our building and testing framework into the cloud, and that's all powered by Hudson. So if you have any questions, we've got answers. Just type them into the little chat window over there, and we'll answer them the best we can.